Hello, you golfing legends, and welcome back to another episode of the original Off Course. I'm your host, Dan Edwards, and joining me this week is Luke and Sawyer from Vortex, aka Vortex Golf. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
It is awesome to have you. Vortex is taking the rangefinder game by storm in golf, it seems like, over the last little bit. So happy to have you on to talk product and just the overall segment that is there. Can I get a bit of a backstory from both of you? Maybe start with Sawyer, where you came from and how long you've been with Vortex?
Sure. So I'm Sawyer, brand manager over here at Vortex and Vortex Golf. I've been with Vortex for, 6 years. So Vortex, obviously based in, well, not obviously, your listeners probably don't know that, but we're based in Wisconsin. So grew up in small town Wisconsin, stuck around here for college at UW-Madison, and obviously growing up in the outdoors and golfing and doing all the things. Vortex was just kind of a natural fit for me.
Yeah, I love that. I do have one early question before we really dig into the meat. I've got an email picture you here with a nice beard, but we're rocking the stash. How do you decide week to week? Where does that come from?
Man, that is a tough one. If I'm talking broad strokes, a lot of times winter, the beard will come out.
Okay.
And then summer, I bring the mustache back. I had to test the waters for a little bit with the mustache with my wife, and obviously did a little informal poll with the coworkers, and the feedback was positive. So hopefully the comment section is kind to me, but I've kind of committed to the mustache look at this point.
I love it. Yeah, I figured mustache March was a big teller after facial hair February, but you never know. Laughed pretty good when I saw the picture you showed off the stash. I respect it a lot. I wish I could do it myself. Usually, I just look like a wannabe pilot when I do one, so it's a good look.
You gotta commit. There is a very uncomfortable period from like 5 o'clock shadow to mustache where things get a little bit like you gotta almost like schedule vacation from work so no one sees you like that. But you gotta commit and get to the final point. It's worth it.
Awesome. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, so I've been with Vortex for 4 years on the engineering side. I grew up in Michigan. Right out of college, I started engineering in the automotive industry. I wasn't super passionate about, cars and components, and I'm a big outdoorsman. And so that's why, Vortex made a lot of sense for me to make the trek over Wisconsin, especially as a Packer fan. Now I live a little bit closer to Green Bay, which is nice. But yeah, so then really kind of get my feet wet in the outdoor industry with, hunting and shooting with Vortex's, main product lines. And then when we started getting into golf, I kind of really latched onto that with being a big golfer as well. And now I get the opportunity to, golf for work, which is a lot of fun. So
Awesome. And pretty firmly in Team Beard, it looks like, which is great. Sawyer hasn't taken you to the dark side.
right.
Appreciate that.
Still working on it.
Well,
I do not look as good as Sawyer with the mustache, so it's not going to happen anytime soon.
fair enough. Sawyer, are you big into golf yourself? Or I know from what I was able to read, there's a lot of outdoors activities in your life. Is golf one of them?
It's been kind of a seasons of life thing. So I mean, I've been golfing for, let's do the math here, over 20 years. But I think for me, I really love to golf, and I was that guy that it kind of would like go in waves. Like you've got that time in your life where a lot of friends are getting married, so you get a lot of bachelor parties. So doing a lot of scrambles, a lot of trips, and then just some local kind of fun events. Like admittedly, there was a hefty period there where I was just so frustrated with golf that I didn't give up on it, but it wasn't super fun for me during that time. So with us getting back into or entering the golf market, it's been a really fun step for me to get back in and take it a little bit more seriously and really kind of commit to getting better. So it's been not as frustrating, but it's been super fun just to dive back in with both feet.
Yeah, life has a funny way of doing that when you have something you kind of sort of love, but also love to hate sometimes, and then, make the big shift with the company, and suddenly you've got great reason for it. I want to talk about Vortex as a whole because it's more than just a golf rangefinder brand. It's been around for quite some time, it seems like, and it has a very strong story to it. Either you guys want to break down the Vortex story overall?
Sure. Yeah. So we can give kind of a quick overview. And then obviously, if you've got any questions or Luke, you want to hop in, please do. So, kind of Vortex as you see it, like the VTX logo right here. I can't believe I just did that. Is about is about 22 years old. So before that, what you saw was the original founder, Dan Hamilton, um, was over in Vietnam, came back on the GI Bill, became a dentist in Indiana, realized that wasn't quite what he wanted to do, and moved with his family to Wisconsin and started a Wild Birds Unlimited store. So bird feeders, bird seed, and did really well there. Became kind of a linchpin in the community that way. And there was a lot of people that were coming into the shop asking about optics, binoculars, spotting scopes, tripods, and at the time they weren't carrying them. So obviously, as a business owner, the light kind of goes on. And you're like, okay, this is something I should definitely look into. So reached out to a couple of the other brands at the time and didn't have a ton of luck getting some traction that way. So actually then developed a house brand, Eagle Optics, which I believe you could still purchase until I think 5 or 6 years ago. And anyone with Eagle Optics still covered under the lifetime warranty. But kind of started there and things started going really well with the house brand they had there. And then as Dan's sons, which are still involved with the business, kind of entered the fold, there was a little bit more momentum behind kind of the hunting and shooting space. And that's when you saw more of an expansion to rangefinders, red dots, rifle scopes. So just keeping that momentum going, and kind of with that change, you saw the switch to Vortex as you see it today. So headquartered in Barneveld, Wisconsin. So for anyone familiar, we're about 25 minutes, give or take, from Madison, Wisconsin, not far off kind of the pretty well known now kind of golf loop with Kohler and some of those other courses. So if anyone's planning a trip to Wisconsin or kind of looking into that, we'd love to have you stop by. We've got a golf course about a quarter mile away that we play all the time. And then we also built kind of a fun little par 3-ish course right on campus here. So there's been a huge commitment to everyone getting better in the building. Obviously, there was a ton of people that loved golf that worked here before, but kind of similar to me, I think it's really just reignited a lot of people's passion for it. And it's just been a really great excuse to golf more. So I think everyone's really latched onto that. But that's kind of the high level story. I think a lot of the things that have helped Vortex grow the way it has, we're the market leader in sport optics, is just the commitment to people. That includes people that we hire, the type of people that we want to bring on the team, how we treat other people, whether that's the consumer, whether that's retailers that we work with, going the absolute extra mile for them and doing whatever it takes to do the right thing. Because I think when you couple that with the quality of the products that Luke and his team put out, I think it's really become kind of a secret sauce of like, well, they make really good stuff and they're awesome to work with, which isn't always the norm. I mean, it doesn't matter what industry it is, but from a customer service, warranty and service standpoint, marketing, product development, sales, everyone's just in lockstep to kind of march to the beat of the same drum. And I think it's just led to some really great momentum and a lot of excitement and confidence that we could enter the golf market and really knock it out of the park.
Yeah, so things like glass optics range, like I think there's a lot of parallels there to the entire breadth of the brand. But I noticed the first thing when I go on the website is you have very clearly the optics portion of Vortex and the golf portion of Vortex separated. And I'm curious, is that just to not overwhelm folks? Why make that choice rather than just bring it all into the fold?
It's a really good question. So as the golf range finders were in development, we did some surveys. Obviously, we're talking to a lot of people. We're hearing from retailers, and it consistently came up as something that people wanted. And obviously, as a company that knows how to make rangefinders really well for a number of different things, whether that's a sheep hunt on a mountain or long range shooting or whatever it might be. We knew we could do it. From the separation standpoint, we felt confident that in talking to our current consumer on kind of the main brand, that if they golfed, they had enough affinity for the brand that they were going to see that we were entering the golf market and be like, oh, sweet, Vortex. I love Vortex. I love golf. I'm going to go get that. Knowing that we were entering a new market right off the bat, we wanted to keep that clean. So we wanted Vortex Golf to be a golf rangefinder brand for the endemic golfer. And then as kind of a parallel to that, we knew we had this huge group of consumers that love the brand that also golf, that are going to kind of latch on for the ride. We knew we were only going to get one shot to enter that market, and we wanted to keep it super clean, super consistent. And in the eyes of someone who may not have been familiar with Vortex before that, we wanted them to be confident and wanted to be clear to them that we're a golf rangefinder brand from a Vortex Golf standpoint. So I hope that answers your question, but we really wanted to enter the market being a golf brand for golfers, knowing that the ethos of the company still fits everything else that we do on the hunt and shoot side.
Yeah, I think it's great, especially for someone like me who, I mean, my life revolves around the game of golf. It doesn't necessarily, I'm not the guy who's going out and into the woods and hanging out for a while. So it's not a matter of being overwhelmed by it, but it is incredibly nice to know that that extra component is there, so that yes, you're a new brand, but we'll get into this, I'm sure. But like, there are a lot of rangefinders in the space, and to know that you have that depth of quality is kind of a big deal for someone like me who values the amount of money he puts into his products.
Yep.
And I think anyone out there who has purchased a rangefinder or has had to deal with a warranty on a rangefinder, it's rarely the most fun thing you'll do that day or that week or that month or that year, depending on how long it drags out. So yeah, I really appreciated that you show that there is a secondary component to your story, while also not overwhelming us on things that we and by we I mean golfers might not fully understand or grasp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and naturally, I think you'll see some osmosis both ways, you know? Like, I think you'll see people that hunt and shoot see that we get into golf and maybe they get more into golf. And I think there's also certainly a subset of golfers who may be looking to get outdoors more, maybe looking to get into long range shooting or training or something like that. So I think you're naturally kind of creating this create your own adventure situation for them, where we're certainly not hiding anything. Like, they know all of the things that we do, but to your point, not overwhelming them, make it easy for them to find the thing they want. And if they want to kind of go across and see some of the other things we do and get interested in that, make that easy too.
Yeah, the early thought I had when I noticed you did have that component to the company was my expectations for something like durability went through the roof. Like, straight away, my assumption was if you can drag this through the mud, you can probably handle shooting 150 yards to go pull your 9-iron. So, of course, as I go through the website, the first thing I see is his picture of an absolutely destroyed rangefinder, which says you can bet on it from mode over to under par. So I get a sense that that is part of your brand identity, this really high quality product that is incredibly durable. Is it, assuming that's correct, is a lot of what you went into it pulling from that secondary category where you understand that durability matters a ton?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to the hunting and shooting products, we've really dialed in how we test and evaluate and then design products. And we're constantly learning as new products come out. We develop new tests and new standards for those products, and it kind of carries through to all different product types and categories that we have. So I think, by being in like the hunt and shoot industry for a while, we're able to look at the durability of those products and what that requires, and really kind of pass on those same requirements to what a golf product would be. So, that's going to be including drop testing. It's going to be, we have a simulator here that we use for shooting, but then we kind of tested it out as if the rangefinder was in the cubby in the golf cart for a long period of time on some bumpy terrain, and making sure things can hold up to that. So we have a lot of tools here, and then we can kind of really drill down to what that specific use case is going to be for that customer, and really make sure that it's going to go above and beyond what hopefully ever happens to it. And then, I mean, we have that warranty in place that I know we can talk to that is going to cover any of those extreme cases that, we do our best to protect against them. We do know things happen, but like you said, I think it really helps having all of our prior history and knowledge from a very rugged industry to be able to kind of bring it onto the golf course.
Yeah, rugged is an interesting term. I actually just had a conversation last week while I was playing. Someone had purchased a rangefinder on eBay for like 35 bucks that was used and beat to hell. And the whole point of him buying it was so I can treat it like garbage too. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm like, what a weird thing to say, but apparently he's not the only one. So, the idea that rugged can be a part of the conversation, we don't see enough of that. There's a lot of product that we read about on THP where people are super disappointed over the course of, let's say, half a season, a full season, and something like a rangefinder, you expect multiple seasons where these things just slowly deteriorate. And I think the expectation based on what I'm seeing here is that they won't have that experience with Vortex.
Yeah, and I think I think there's a difference between just taking a product off the shelf and like rebranding it and versus really kind of making it like your own. So we're going to take we're going to look at designs, but then like I said, we really want to build it to withstand what the customers are going to put it through. We're going to put our own touch on it. We don't really like to take off-brand product or off-shelf products and just kind of distribute them with different product names. We're going to take each individual product and engineer it and design it to fit a certain role in a certain environment. And I think that really helps, customers with their experience because it's going to fit their needs, but then it's going to also durability-wise withstand that specific use case as well.
So from a visual perspective, from an application perspective, there's a level of precision that's required in golf, but a lack of consistency in most cases from players. Probably a little bit different from something like shooting, where it's pretty realistic that you'll get a certain number once you pull the trigger, as opposed to golf where you might hit it half the distance. Unfortunately, we're prone to that. Um, when you look at the case needs between the two and start focusing on critical features to pack into these units, what is the biggest priority or the top priorities when it comes to that?
I think with us being like an optics company, I think optics are going to come first. I think especially looking at products that are already out in the market and like the experience you get when you look through the viewfinder, I think you really want to be able to see that detail of like, even if you want to see like the tree bark or like the blades of grass, like you want to be able to have all the detail you can when you're looking through that rangefinder. And so optics is definitely going to be number one, and that's something that we have a lot of experience with our hunting and shooting line. So we definitely wanted to carry that over. And then when it comes to accuracy, same thing with the range finding engine. But you're right about like, you could range something being 150 yards and you could still duff it like 60. And so, is it the rangefinder's fault? Is the golfer's fault? And really either way, we still want to make sure that the rangefinder is accurate so that we're going to give the golfer the tools to make that best decision on which club they want to hit. So that rangefinder engine is going to be just as accurate on our shooting product line that's supposed to be for shots out to a mile versus like a golfing rangefinder line that 300 yards is what you're aiming for. So a lot of those carryovers really helped us, I think, come out with a quality product because we're just taking a lot of those lessons learned and applying it to golf.
So a lot of the people talk about things like glass and visuals, and listen, I'm not a rangefinder savant by any stretch. I know what a bad one looks like, and I know what a really good one looks like. How impactful is that? There are ranges that come with it, and I can go onto a website right now and find a real cheap one that is very clearly really cheap, that probably doesn't have the same level of quality. Talk about the internals, the materials that go into it. They can't be inexpensive to put in there. Is that what drives value and price in something like this?
Yeah, there's a few different aspects to like the optical quality. So a lot of it is going to be like glass material, but then it's also like the optical design, which is going to include like how many lenses are being used or how many prisms are being used, and then also the quality of the coatings that are going on there. And those coatings are going to be for make like scratch and abrasion resistance on the outside lenses, but then also it's going to be for like light transmission and like optical clarity. So those are all things that, that we can help, design that stuff in house, but then also we have that, like I said, the experience from before, so we know what works. But those are things that we find are important, and I think can really increase the quality of a product. It's going to increase the cost, but I think we have it pretty dialed in to where we can make it a great value for customers at a certain cost, at a certain price point, while still having like a high quality optical system in the rangefinder.
Okay. I didn't know an awful lot about coatings. Is that part of what you place on the outside of the material that allows it to maintain its quality over time, or is that about defending against scratches, things like that?
Kind of both, and that's something that, even like on our rifle scope and binocular lines, that's we kind of use like silver coatings, and it's a lot of it comes down to like I said, a lot of it's abrasion resistance, but I think a big part of the coatings are going to be just helping with that optical clarity and quality. So the coatings are going to change depending on like price points, but that's something that is something that's definitely important for the overall optical quality of the product.
Okay. If correct me if I'm wrong, you have two very specific models, then a slope option and a non-slope option for your blade, and then you have the Anarch, which is the top of the line.
Mhm.
Can you share with our listeners the most significant difference between the two?
Yeah, so between the blades and then the Anarch.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the most significant difference is going to be the Anarch that we have here. The Anarch has image stabilization, and that's going to be the biggest difference. I think secondarily, the next big difference would be the display. So the blade and blade slope have black LCD displays, so the numbers are going to be black, whereas the Anarch has the ability to do black and red. And there's also an ambient light sensor inside the rangefinder. So if you're outside on a bright sunny day, it's going to jack up that brightness a little bit. And if it's cloudy or darker out, it's going to dim it down for you, so it can automatically adjust that brightness. The image stabilization is very unique, and that's something that is in the Anarch only, and that's going to really help for if you have shaky hands, if there's a cross breeze, it's kind of pushing you a little bit, and even if you have none of those things, just trying to range a target, a tiny flake stick, 300-400 yards away, having that image stabilization really help you kind of pinpoint where that laser is hitting is going to help a lot. So that's one thing that we really wanted to incorporate. It you don't see it a whole lot in the golf market. There's a few options out there. You don't see a whole lot in the hunt and shoot side either. So it's still kind of like a newer feature, but we see a lot of benefit in having that. And I think it makes the Anarch's experience just that much better.
Yeah, I've heard plenty of people experience the unit and just be absolutely shocked by it. So it does definitely have an impact straight out of the box. I think people are surprised by that. Do you also have pin spotter mode, and how does that apply, and what can people expect? Because that's in both units.
Yeah. So pin spotter mode is our term for what you see is like locking onto the flake stick or the pin. And what that's going to do is that, if you're ranging a flake stick, it's going to give you that feedback of the vibration and a little icon to show you that you locked onto the flake stick. And how that really works is that it's looking for like an object standing out from a background. So, a flake stick's going to be by itself, and there could be trees and hills behind it. If it notices that flake stick, that object is out in front, it's going to give you that feedback to show you that that's a flake stick. And that's helpful for when you are ranging those longer distances, and maybe you're not quite sure if you are hitting those trees in the background or the hill in the background. It's going to give you that feedback to let you know that is the flake stick, so that you can count on what range it's showing.
Okay, and then it's like my love or hate feature that every useful rangefinder has now. It's the magnet that comes with it. I know a lot of people absolutely love it. I call it the rangefinder loser mechanism, which means you lose it the minute you leave it on the cart and walk away. It seems like that's an absolute necessity at this point. Everyone's doing it. Why does something like that matter? Is it just purely ease of use? Is that the mindset?
I think so. I think if you look, I think most people are golfing in carts these days. Even if you're walking, if you have a cart, like you're gonna have a piece of metal on there that you could stick your rangefinder to. But I think, pace of play, I think, is always going to be a concern with golfers, especially as golf courses get more packed these days. So having that rangefinder in a very convenient location that you can just you can pull up to your spot, you can range real quick, you can decide what club you want to hit. you really don't want the rangefinder to be taking up a lot of your time. You want to be getting that number quickly, access to the rangefinder, and then, you know, deciding on which club to hit and hitting. So, I mean, sure, there are other places you can store it, whether it's like in the pouch on your bag, or in your bag, or in like the cup holder if you are in a cart. But you know, I do think the reason the magnets are so popular is just that ease of access to the rangefinder, so that you can use it really quick.
Yeah, and maybe it's just me being jealous because my current device is what would you call it? Prehistoric and doesn't have one, but so I'm a cup holder guy. It's just I don't know, everyone I've talked to that looks at a rangefinder and is pursuing a new rangefinder, it's like a magnet is an absolute necessity. And I'm always surprised by that. It's that concept is fairly new in golf, and it's just taken it by storm.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and then there's still some instances where, like, I know my dad's cart has aluminum posts, so I can't even stick the rangefinder to it. So, you know, there are going to be examples like that, but 9 times out of 10, I do really appreciate having it right there. And my rangefinder that I used for golf prior to working here did not have a magnet, and I didn't really know what I was missing until I had one of these, and I was like, oh wow, that is so much more convenient to have it right there.
yeah. I want to talk more about the warranty. I saw a quote, and I'm looking down to read it. It says, "Make your problem our problem." It's one of the big promises you guys have, that the expectation is that the product will be excellent, and if it's not, you want to deal with it yourselves. So why does that matter so much?
Well, I think Luke kind of alluded to it a little bit, but at the end of the day, I mean, we are committed to making the best product possible that consumers will love. It'll be easy to use. It's going to be really durable. But we're not naive to the fact also that things are going to happen, whether that's in the hunt shoot space or the golf space. Like it's just human nature. You drop stuff, things happen. So the warranty from really the beginnings of Vortex has been just such a disruptor. And in the early days, and now even to a point, like people can't hardly believe it. And I think the most important qualifier there, and the example that I use is, if a business had a warranty like that and didn't make good products, they would be out of business very, very soon. Like for us, it is a additional wrinkle of confidence that we can give the consumer. Like hypothetically speaking, if someone was to get an Anarch, like that could be the last rangefinder they ever need, like for their entirety of life golfing. Anything that happens, if you can return a piece of it, like you brought up the lawnmower example. I mean, we've seen some pretty extreme stuff, run over by 18 wheelers, all the different things. Like, I think it's just an understanding and kind of the commitment to the consumer that, like, hey, we get it. Like, we want to get you back on the course as soon as we physically can. And that's why our customer care team here is phenomenal. They'll repair or replace, and you're talking really, really quick timelines, because that's the other thing. Like, you can have the warranty, but if it takes 2-3 months for that person to get the product back, just with how everything works these days, it's a lot of instant gratification, and people are just like, yeah, I mean, that's cool, but I need it sooner than that. So, I mean, kind of a long-winded way to say it's just, again, going the extra mile for the consumer and making sure that's not just lip service, like very tangible things that we are able to offer that just give people a higher level of confidence to trust the brand and in the product.
Do you guys have like a wall of fame of just absolutely torched units?
There is one in here.
Is there really?
Yep.
I saw this the image on the website. I can't stop looking at it. That is just absolutely busted out.
So here's a pair of binos that were in a house fire, I believe.
Oh.
You can see them gnarled up there. So yeah, we have things like this all over the building here, and I think they range from, you know, house fires, or even like service members that you know, are overseas that you know, were in a dilemma and products got destroyed. So yeah, we kind of show that stuff around you to show it's our, you know, our commitment to the customer.
I'd love to know, perspective wise, it's so different from so many that are in the space. There's a lot of really cheap products out there. Is it hard to maintain that, or is it something to be incredibly proud of, to compare yourself at such a crazy level to some of these products that you know, made out of cheap plastic and cheap optics, and you know, work for as long as they work type of thing?
I think you'll find with anyone you talk to in this building, being humble is a huge part of what it takes to work here. And again, that's not just lip service, like that is a requirement. So, but I think paired with that, you've got a building full of people that are absolutely driven to be the best. It does not matter if it's in the binocular space, in the golf rangefinder space. So really where we find our sweet spot is we don't need to talk about competitors. We don't need to do that. We want to talk about our product and what we like about it and what you think you're going to like about it, and leave you hopefully informed to make a decision. I think that's the biggest thing for us. I think to your point, I think you could easily make an argument that that segment of the golf market could be considered crowded. But I think what Vortex brings to the table is a lot of things that are really going to help us disrupt, whether that's really unique features, crazy high quality optics. The warranty obviously is a huge one. And then I think just the brand as a whole, we've really worked hard to be a brand that the example we use a lot of times on both sides of the brand is like, be the brand that someone would want to sit down and have a beer with. And we take that pretty seriously, like especially in golf. We don't want to be elitist. We don't want to be stuffy. We make a really serious product that works really, really well for serious golfers, but we don't want to be put in that bucket either of like, you can use this, you can't use this, this isn't for you. We want to make a product that's going to apply to every point on someone's journey through golf. And again, just I've used the word confidence like 1,000 times at this point, but like giving them the confidence that we are making a product for them that is going to work and they are going to love the brand, whether they experience a touch point with us on social, they send us a DM, they call in, whatever it might be. We want to kind of surprise and delight at every stage of the game.
Yeah, I think for a little clarity on my end, I don't think the rangefinder space as a whole collectively is crowded. I think the crappy rangefinder space is pretty crowded. I think the opportunity for people to make a high quality unit and something that people are genuinely excited about versus the guys who are buying them on eBay to beat the hell out of really mediocre units is a very different point of conversation. And believe it or not, there's a lot of that in golf. There are tons of different products that are made really well, sharing the same space with stuff that just doesn't have the same tier expectation on it, which I think is really interesting. And the more we expose these conversations and have people talk through the product, that's one of the things I love the most about THP is the feedback on that community is so honest because these are genuine consumers spending their money on it, and then you get a pretty clear understanding whether they're happy or not. So
yep. And that's why THP has been just such an awesome experience and just so valuable for us from a product feedback standpoint, from a questions FAQ standpoint. And we just take a lot of pride on the challenge that can be associated with introducing your brand to a totally new group of people, to your point that don't pull punches, nor should they. Like that's what makes the feedback so valuable is it's real. So we've really enjoyed just kind of hanging out in the forum. Hopefully for anyone listening, you've seen us kind of interacting, hanging out in there. Obviously we met some of the THP team at PGA show last year. But it's just been a lot of fun. Like we're people. Like we like to get feedback. We like to have those conversations, and all of that just feeds into making the best product we can for people and making them happy.
So one of the things I noticed was it's not just rangefinders. Obviously, you have that additional segment, but there's also quite a bit of gear, some apparel, hats. There seems to be a lot of pride in the brand, and I'd love for you to speak on that a bit more. Why does it matter to have more than just the rangefinders, and is that something you'll be expanding on?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to use a very scientific metric here. I call it the sticker on the truck metric. If someone puts a decal or a sticker on the back window of their truck, I consider that a pretty big step. And that's what I've just used over the years, just as almost kind of a running joke, because I live in the area. And even when you travel, you really get trained to look for it. And you start seeing it more and more, and you're like, okay, like we knew that, but like we really got something here. And I think to your point, things like apparel and accessories, we just launched an AirTag holder this week that's pretty cool too, just kind of another little unique thing. But if someone wants to be an advocate to the brand and they love the brand, like we want to give them the tools to do that for sure. So whether that's apparel, decals, whatever it might be on the golf side or the main side. And we've got some really great apparel. I think at the end of the day, like we want to be known as a golf rangefinder company, but we also want to, if someone wants to rock a polo with the logo or wear a hat or do any of those things, like why would we not make that easy for them? Because I think it's good for everyone. They get a great piece of apparel, and we get someone out there repping the brand. So I think definitely laser focused on continuing to make the best rangefinder we can, but there will definitely always be other things we make to that same level of quality to kind of give people an opportunity to rep the brand.
Awesome. What about future state stuff? What are you looking at changing much or adding to the lineup, or when it comes down to research and focusing on things that matter for golfers, are there currently elements of focus that you have?
Yeah, we're definitely looking at, like what is the Gen 2 and Gen 3 stuff going to look like? And like you said as well, like expanding the product line maybe beyond rangefinders. And I think a lot of that stems from the feedback that we get from customers, especially, THP. We never get offended by, negative feedback. We take all that stuff and, we want to implement that to make our products better. Especially since we are new to the golf space. A lot of us are golfers here, but that's still a small portion of what the entire golf industry can be. So we're definitely taking all that feedback, and there's a few things that we're looking into that we want to implement, but we're definitely going to be constantly improving these products as we go throughout time, and coming up with new things. And like I said, it's all based on user feedback. So the more testers that get their hands on it, the more people are posting in forums, the better the products can be, because we can hear that feedback directly from people.
Awesome. One of the last things I wanted to ask about is that there seems to be a pretty strong company strength that exists at Vortex. I read on the website there's hundreds of folks here. I think it's over 400 people in America working for the company, which I think is really cool. It seems like something that there's a lot of pride in that with.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, kind of mentioned it earlier, but between the teams, the similarities of the people that you see work here from like a people and trait standpoint, like Luke is obviously much better at math than I am because he's in a different department. But I think those core traits, like be humble, be hungry, fail fast is another big one that we talk about a lot, like keep moving, keep trucking. And everyone's just really, really driven and passionate. And I think if you've got that combination of things and you combine that with the specific traits and talents that you need for specific departments, if you can put that puzzle together, like it is a really special thing. And I think this place does a really good job of that.
Awesome. Any final thoughts from you guys today before we wrap it up?
The only thing that I have to say is what I just said, is that just keep posting feedback. Whether it's on our videos, it's in forums, or if it's shooting us a message. Just any feedback we can get, positive or negative, is only going to help out Vortex as a company to making better products and helping the customers out so that they can get better products themselves. So.
Yeah, and I think too, like in today's day and age, like people want to feel a connection to the brand of the products they use, especially for something that's tied into the golf market. So hopefully for anyone listening, this gave you a little bit of peek behind the curtain on kind of what makes us tick. And obviously we talked a little bit about the product too, but follow along on social, keep posting in the forum. We're going to reply to you. We're going to be there hanging out. Like we want your feedback. And we want you to really enjoy and love using this product. So all the feedback you guys have already given allows us to continue to do that. So yeah,
Awesome.
Thanks for having us on, Dan.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, if you folks are out there curious about rangefinders, looking for a new one, looking for a durable one, you can apparently throw at the wall and then have a discussion on a chat with us section. Go check out Vortex. They look fantastic. Pin spotter, image stabilization. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on. And if you're unsure, go check out all the conversation about it on the THP community forums. It is full of content in case you're curious and are looking in the market. If you are playing golf this weekend, have fun, make it count. And if your rangefinder doesn't seem accurate, go get a new one. We'll see you guys next week.